The most feared man in Seoul was on his knees, not from a bullet or a blade, but from the piercing screams of his 6-month-old son. Cherng Mao, the ghost of Gangnam, the man who made grown criminals weep, was breaking. His son wouldn't stop crying. Doctors ran. Nannies fled in terror. And then a black girl working the night shift at a convenience store did the impossible. She made the baby stop. Now Cherng Mao won't let her leave. And Flora is about to discover that saving a mafia boss's child comes with a price she never agreed to pay. Before we dive into this intense story, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment below telling me what you think Flora should do. Your support keeps these stories coming, and I read every single comment. Now, let's begin. They said Cherng Mao buried his heart the night his wife died giving birth. They said he watched her bleed out on the operating table, holding their newborn son, and something inside him shattered beyond repair. For 6 months, Seoul's underworld whispered his name like a curse. Cold, ruthless, untouchable. He controlled half the city's underground operations from the shadows, a ghost no one dared cross. But tonight, the ghost was human, and he was losing his mind. The baby's screams tore through the mansion like sirens, bouncing off marble walls and crystal chandeliers. It was 2:47 a.m., and Cherng Mao paced the nursery floor like a caged tiger, his son thrashing in his arms. The child's face was red, twisted in rage or pain or something darker. The screaming didn't sound human anymore. "Boss," one of his men stood at the door, voice shaking. "Should I call another specialist?" Cherng Mao's glare could have drawn blood. The guard took 3 steps back. "The last specialist," Cherng Mao said, voice low and cracked, "ran out of here screaming about demons. You want to try again?" The guard said nothing. Smart man. Cherng Mao looked down at his son, his only piece of her left in this world, and felt something close to despair. The baby's cries had turned hoarse, scraping against the silence like claws on concrete. 3 weeks, 3 weeks of this hell. Every nanny quit. Some lasted hours. One didn't even make it through the first night. They all said the same thing. The baby was cursed, possessed. When he stopped crying, he'd stare with eyes too knowing for an infant, like he could see straight through to your darkest sins. Staff reported cold spots in the nursery, shadows moving where no shadows should be, the faint sound of a woman singing when no one else was there. Cherng Mao didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in power, control, fear. But standing here at 3 a.m., holding a screaming child he couldn't comfort, even he started to wonder if his dead wife's spirit was trapped in their son, angry that he'd survived and she hadn't. "What do you want from me?" His voice cracked. "Tell me what you want." The baby screamed louder. "Fine." Cherng Mao grabbed a blanket, wrapped the child tight, maybe too tight, and stormed out. "We're leaving." His men scrambled. "Boss, where?" "Start the car, now." The black Mercedes tore through Seoul's rain-soaked streets, headlights cutting through the downpour. Neon signs blurred past the windows, pink, blue, green, painting the interior in ghostly colors. The city was alive even at this hour, but it felt distant, muffled, like they were moving through a dream. Cherng Mao sat in the back, jaw clenched, eyes bloodshot. He didn't know where he was going. He just needed the screaming to stop, needed to think, needed to breathe. But the baby kept crying, relentless and piercing. "Boss," the driver's voice was careful. "Hospital." "No," Cherng Mao's voice was flat dead. "Just drive." They drove past closed shops and empty intersections, through neighborhoods that went from luxury to working class, until finally the car pulled up outside a 24-hour convenience store. The kind of place Cherng Mao would never normally notice. Flickering sign, dirty windows, one dim bulb inside. He stepped out into the rain. Within seconds he was soaked, expensive suit plastered to his body, but he didn't care. The baby's cries echoed off the wet pavement as he pushed open the glass door. A small bell jingled. Behind the counter stood a woman. She was young, early 20s maybe, with dark brown skin and tired eyes. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, a few coils escaping around her face. She wore an oversized hoodie under a faded store apron, and her name tag read Flora in crooked letters. She looked half asleep until she saw him. Her eyes widened, just for a second. Even here, in this forgotten corner of Seoul, she recognized that face. The man you didn't cross, the man whose name you didn't say out loud. But she didn't run, didn't bow, just watched him with quiet, careful eyes. Cherng Mao walked straight to the counter, still rocking the screaming child. His voice came out rough. "Water, warm if you have it." Flora nodded quickly, reaching for a bottle from the warmer behind her. But the baby only screamed louder, thrashing so hard Cherng Mao nearly dropped him. Flora hesitated. "Is he sick?" Cherng Mao didn't answer. His patience was a thread about to snap. She studied the baby for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Then she looked up at Cherng Mao, and her voice was soft but certain. "May I?" The guards at the door tensed. No one touched the boss's son. No one. But Cherng Mao stared at this woman, this stranger who should have been terrified but wasn't, and something in her eyes made him pause. No fear, no calculation, just quiet understanding. Against every instinct, he nodded. Flora reached out slowly, carefully, and lifted the baby from his arms. The moment she touched him, the screaming softened, then stopped. Silence crashed over the store like a wave. Everyone froze. The guards looked at each other in disbelief. Cherng Mao's eyes narrowed, his mind trying to process what just happened. He'd seen men die, seen empires fall, but he'd never seen this. "How?" he started. "SHH." Flora's voice was gentle but firm. She swayed slightly, the baby settling against her chest. "He's hungry." "Hungry?" Cherng Mao's voice was raw with exhaustion. "He doesn't take the bottle." Flora looked up at him, and there was something almost amused in her eyes. "Then we're not using a bottle." Cherng Mao blinked, confused. Then understanding hit him and his ears turned red. "Turn around," Flora said. "What?" "I said turn around." He stared at her. She stared back, unflinching. "You want him to stop crying or not?" Cherng Mao coughed, his usual composure cracking. "Everyone," he muttered, voice tight, "face the wall." The guards looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "Now." They turned, slowly, reluctantly. Cherng Mao turned too, stiff and awkward, staring at the store shelves like they held the secrets of the universe. Behind him, he heard the rustle of fabric, then the softest sound, the quiet, rhythmic suckling of a baby finally feeding. The crying stopped completely. Peace settled over the room, real peace, the kind Cherng Mao hadn't felt in 6 months. Only the rain outside dared to make noise, tapping gently against the windows. One of the guards whispered, "It's a miracle." Another elbowed him quiet. A minute passed, 2, the silence stretched, fragile and precious. "You can turn back now." Cherng Mao turned. Flora stood there, the baby sleeping peacefully against her shoulder, his tiny hand clutching her hoodie. His face was calm, breathing soft and even. The sight hit Cherng Mao somewhere deep, somewhere he thought had died with his wife. "You breastfed him," he said quietly. Flora smiled just a little. "You told me to make him stop crying. Mission accomplished." Cherng Mao let out a breath that might have been a laugh, might have been a sob. He didn't know anymore. He reached for his son, but the moment Flora shifted the baby, the child whimpered, face scrunching up in protest. "He doesn't want to leave yet," Flora said softly, adjusting the blanket around him. Cherng Mao's jaw tightened. He studied her face, the warmth in her eyes, the quiet strength in the way she held his son. Something about her pulled at memories he'd tried to bury. His wife. The way she used to hum while cooking. The way she'd touch his face and tell him he wasn't as cold as he pretended. For a moment, he forgot how to breathe. "Who are you?" His voice was barely a whisper. "Just Flora," she said. "Nobody important." But that wasn't true. She'd done what dozens of specialists couldn't. She'd brought peace to his son, to him. Flora gently placed the sleeping baby back in his arms. This time the child stayed calm, his tiny head resting against Cherng Mao's chest. "He'll be fine now," Flora said. Cherng Mao wanted to ask 100 questions. Where she was from, why she helped, how she knew what to do. but before he could speak, she pulled her hood up, shadowing her face. "Take care of him, sir." She turned and walked toward the back room, disappearing through a doorway marked, "Staff only." Cherng Mao stood there holding his sleeping son, rain drumming against the windows, his mind racing. When he finally walked back to the car, one of his men cleared his throat. "Boss, should we find out who she is?" Cherng Mao looked down at his peaceful son, then back at the convenience store. "Yes," he said quietly, voice edged with something dangerous and desperate. "Find out everything, and bring her to me." Flora's hands were shaking as she stood in the back room, heart pounding. She just breastfed a mafia boss's baby. She just touched Cherng Mao's son. The Cherng Mao, the ghost of Gangnam. The man people crossed the street to avoid. What had she been thinking? She hadn't been. She'd just seen a desperate father and a hungry baby and done what felt right. But now the weight of it crashed over her. Her phone buzzed. A text from her roommate, "You good? It's late." Flora typed back, "Yeah, just a weird night." Weird didn't begin to cover it. She thought that was the end of it. One strange encounter with Seoul's underworld that she'd never tell anyone about. But 2 days later, Flora's life changed. She was walking home from her shift, cutting through the quiet streets of Itaewon when a black car pulled up beside her. Tinted windows, engine purring like a panther. The back door opened. "Get in." Flora's blood went cold. She recognized that voice, Cherng Mao. "I'm good, thanks," she said, trying to keep walking. The car rolled slowly beside her. That wasn't a request. Flora stopped, looked at the open door. Every survival instinct screamed at her to run. But where would she go? You didn't run from men like Cherng Mao. They always found you. She got in. Cherng Mao sat across from her, dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than her yearly rent. His son was in a car seat beside him, sleeping peacefully. "You're a hard woman to find, Flora," Cherng Mao said. "I wasn't hiding. No ID on file at the store. Fake name tag. You're working illegally." Flora's stomach dropped. She was on a student visa that didn't allow full-time work. If he reported her. "Relax," Cherng Mao said, reading her face. "I'm not here to get you deported." "Then what do you want?" He looked at his sleeping son. "He hasn't cried since that night, not once. I tried other nannies. The moment they touch him, he screams, but you..." He looked up at her. "You're different." "I got lucky." "No," his voice was certain. "You have something they don't, and I need it." Flora's heart was racing. "Need what?" "I'm offering you a job. Live in my house. Take care of my son. I'll pay you whatever you want." "I'm not a nanny." "You're whatever I say you are." His voice hardened. Then he seemed to catch himself, softening slightly. "I'm asking, please, he needs you." Flora looked at the sleeping baby. So small, so innocent. She thought about her tiny apartment, her illegal job, the constant fear of being caught and sent back home. She thought about the money this could mean. Real money, security. But she also thought about the stories she'd heard. About people who got too close to Cherng Mao's world and never got out. "What if I say no?" Cherng Mao's expression didn't change. "You won't." It wasn't a threat. It was a fact, and somehow that was more terrifying. "1 month," Flora heard herself say. "Trial basis. If it doesn't work out, I walk away, no strings." Something flickered across Cherng Mao's face. Surprise, maybe. People didn't negotiate with him. 3 months, he countered. 2. His lips twitched, almost a smile. "Deal." Flora didn't know if she'd just saved herself or signed her death warrant. Cherng Mao's mansion was ridiculous. That was Flora's first thought when the car pulled through the gates. White stone, massive windows, gardens that looked like they belonged in a palace. This wasn't a home. It was a fortress. Inside was even worse. Marble everywhere. Art that probably cost millions. Staff in uniform who wouldn't meet her eyes. "Your room," Cherng Mao said, opening a door on the 2nd floor. Flora stepped inside and her jaw dropped. The room was bigger than her entire apartment. King-size bed, private bathroom, windows overlooking the garden. This couldn't be real. The baby's room is next door, Cherng Mao continued. He sleeps poorly. You'll hear him if he wakes. Okay. House rules. Don't go in the east wing. Don't ask questions about my business. And don't leave the property without telling me. Flora bristled. I'm not a prisoner. No, but my enemies are everywhere. If they know you matter to my son, they'll use you. I'm keeping you safe. The way he said, matter, sent a strange flutter through Flora's chest. She pushed it down. Fine, anything else? Cherng Mao studied her for a long moment. Thank you for doing this. He left before she could respond. The first week was strange. Flora fell into a rhythm, wake up when the baby woke, feed him, play with him, put him down for naps. He was a sweet child when he wasn't screaming. Curious eyes, ready smile. He'd reach for her face with tiny hands, giggling when she made funny noises. She named him Minyu in her head. Cherng Mao never called him anything but the baby, which broke Flora's heart a little. Cherng Mao himself was a ghost. He left before dawn, came home after midnight. Sometimes Flora would hear his footsteps in the hallway, pausing outside the baby's room, but he never came in, like he was afraid to. On the 8th day, Flora found him in the nursery at 3 a.m. He was standing over the crib, just watching his son sleep. The moonlight through the window cast his face in silver, and Flora was struck by how young he looked. How tired, how sad. He's beautiful, Flora said softly from the doorway. Cherng Mao startled, hand moving toward his waist before he recognized her. He relaxed slightly. He looks like her, Cherng Mao said. My wife, same eyes. Flora moved closer. What was her name? Minjai, his voice cracked on the name. She wanted this baby so badly. She was so happy when she found out she was pregnant. And then, he stopped, swallowed hard. I couldn't save her. It wasn't your fault. I'm the most powerful man in Seoul. I control everything, everyone, but I couldn't save the one person who mattered. His hands clenched into fists. What's the point of all this power if I couldn't save her? Flora didn't know what to say, so she just stood beside him, the two of them watching the sleeping baby in silence. He cries when I hold him, Cherng Mao whispered. My own son, like he knows I failed his mother. That's not true. Then why does he scream? Flora turned to face him. Because you're terrified, Bobbies feel that. He doesn't hate you. He's scared because you're scared. Cherng Mao looked at her, really looked at her, and something passed between them. Understanding, connection. Will you teach me, his voice was so quiet, how to hold him without breaking him? Flora's heart clenched. This dangerous, powerful man, asking her for help like a lost child. Yes, she said, I'll teach you. That became their routine. Late nights in the nursery. Flora showing Cherng Mao how to hold his son, how to read his cues, how to soothe him when he fussed. At first the baby would whimper when his father picked him up, but slowly, night by night, he calmed. The first time the baby smiled at Cherng Mao, Flora thought the man might cry. He smiled, Cherng Mao breathed, voice full of wonder. He smiled at me. Of course he did. You're his father. Cherng Mao looked at Flora then, and there was something raw in his eyes. Thank you for giving me this. Flora felt heat rise in her cheeks. I didn't do anything. You did everything. The air between them felt charged, electric. Flora looked away first. Things shifted after that. Cherng Mao started coming home earlier, started eating dinner with Flora and the baby. He'd sit across from her at the massive dining table, and they'd talk about nothing important at first, then gradually about real things. Flora told him about growing up in Detroit, about her mother who cleaned houses to send her to college, about her dream of becoming a nurse but not being able to afford school. He told her about inheriting his father's empire at 23, about the weight of expectations, about the loneliness of being feared. Do you ever wish you could just be normal? Flora asked one night. Cherng Mao laughed bitter. Every day, but normal people don't survive in my world. Maybe you need a different world. He looked at her, something unreadable in his expression. Maybe. 2 months passed like water. Flora stopped thinking about leaving. The mansion started to feel like home. The baby Minyu was thriving, and Cherng Mao. Flora was falling for him. God help her, she was falling for a man who could never feel the same way. A man whose world was violence and death. A man who probably saw her as nothing more than convenient help. But sometimes she'd catch him watching her with the baby, and there'd be something soft in his eyes. Sometimes their hands would brush and he'd pause, like he felt it too. Sometimes he'd smile at her, really smile, and her heart would forget how to beat. She was in trouble, deep trouble. Everything changed on a Tuesday. Flora was in the garden with the baby when men in black suits appeared. 6 of them, moving fast, surrounding her. "Come with us," one said in Korean. "Who are you?" "Boss wants to see you, now." Fear spiked through her. "Cherng Mao." "Not your boss, ours." They grabbed her arms. The baby started crying. Flora struggled, panic rising. "Let me go, the baby." One of them snatched Minyu from her arms. Flora screamed. Then gunfire, shouting. Cherng Mao's men came running from the house, weapons drawn. A firefight exploded in the garden. Flora was shoved to the ground, someone's body covering hers. When the shooting stopped, 5 of the 6 men were dead. The last one was on his knees, Cherng Mao's gun pressed to his head. Cherng Mao looked terrifying, eyes cold, face blank, monster not man. "Who sent you?" His voice was calm, that made it worse. The man spat blood. "Kim Han-jun sends a message. Give up the territory or he takes everything you love." Cherng Mao's jaw tightened. He pulled the trigger without hesitation. Flora screamed. Cherng Mao turned to her and his face changed. The monster disappeared. Now he just looked scared. "Are you hurt?" Flora was shaking, covered in grass and dirt, arms wrapped around the crying baby. "What just happened?" "Rival gang. They won't touch you again. They tried to take your son." "I know," Cherng Mao's voice was tight. "That's why you're leaving." Flora's heart stopped. "What?" "I'm sending you away. Tonight, somewhere safe. This life, my life, it's too dangerous. I should never have brought you into it." "You can't just." "I can, I am." He wouldn't meet her eyes. "Pack your things." Rage and hurt flooded through Flora. "So that's it. You use me, then throw me away when it gets complicated." "I'm protecting you." "I don't need your protection. I need." She stopped herself. "Need what?" Flora looked at him, this beautiful broken man, and made a choice. "I need you to be honest. Do I matter to you, at all, or am I just the nanny?" Cherng Mao went still. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, "You matter." "How much?" "Too much." His voice cracked. "You matter too much, that's why you have to go. Everyone I love dies, Flora." "I can't. I won't let that happen to you." Flora's anger melted. She stepped closer, the baby quiet now between them. "What if I'm willing to take that risk?" "I'm not." "Too bad. It's my life, my choice." Cherng Mao looked at her, desperate and torn. Why would you stay?" "Because that baby needs me, and because you do too." "Flora." "I'm not leaving, Cherng Mao. Shoot me if you have to, but I'm not leaving him. I'm not leaving you." Something broke in his expression. He reached out, cupped her face with shaking hands. "You're insane." "Maybe, but I'm staying." He kissed her then, desperate and gentle and terrified all at once. Flora kissed him back, the baby between them, this impossible moment of peace in a world of chaos. When they pulled apart, Cherng Mao pressed his forehead to hers. "If you stay, you're mine. I won't be able to let you go." "Then don't." The war with Kim Han-jun lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks of lockdown, of guards everywhere, of Cherng Mao disappearing for days and coming back with blood on his clothes. But he always came back to her, to them. Flora learned to stop asking questions, learned to just hold him when he needed it, to be there in the quiet moments between violence. When it was over, when Kim Han-jun was dead and his organization scattered, Cherng Mao came home and dropped to his knees in front of Flora. "I love you," he said. "I don't know when it happened, but I love you and I'm terrified." Flora pulled him close. "I love you too." "You shouldn't." "Too late." He laughed, exhausted and relieved, and pulled her down into his arms. The baby, their baby now, in all the ways that mattered, squealed happily between them. They were a family, broken and strange and dangerous, but real. Flora thought about the girl she'd been 2 months ago, working a convenience store night shift, just trying to survive. That girl would never believe this was her life now. But as Cherng Mao kissed her forehead and Minyu grabbed her finger with his tiny hand, Flora knew she wouldn't change a thing. She'd breastfed a mafia baby, and somehow, impossibly, she'd found home. If this story got you in your feelings, hit that like button, subscribe for more emotional roller coasters, and comment below telling me what you think happens next. Does Flora fully become part of this dangerous world? Drop your thoughts. I want to hear them all.